TRP's new hospital is a huge hit after just 3 months. Now, the company is targeting new markets to boost its business. Hello and welcome to Insight AI Brief Setai. Today, we're talking about TRP stock. Before we begin, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, let's unpack this TRP situation. We've got, a really interesting mix here. Recent financial results on one side and a major strategic pivot on the other. From what we've gathered, it seems like it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing financially. What's the latest picture on their numbers, especially for Q2 of 2025?
Yeah, what's fascinating here, is that while the company has these exciting, ambitious developments brewing, their recent financial performance definitely paints a picture of, let's say, short-term headwinds. For Q2 2025, TRP reported a noticeable profit decline, and revenue dropped by a pretty significant 18%.
18%, wow.
Yeah, and this isn't an isolated thing either. It actually follows a really challenging Q1 2025. Profit in Q1 hit its lowest point since the company went public.
Lowest point. Ouch.
And that came with an even steeper 29% decrease in revenue.
Wow, okay, so that sounds like more than just a blip. When you say headwinds, what specifically was driving these softer results? What do the sources point to?
Well, if we connect this to the broader economic picture, the sources seem to point to a couple of key things. First, there's the general economic slowdown, right? That's dampened consumer spending. People are, tightening their belts a bit.
Sure, makes sense.
And secondly, and this is maybe more surprising, the increase in post-COVID travel seems to have played a role.
Yeah.
It looks like consumers are maybe prioritizing experiences like international trips over elective things like cosmetic surgery.
Huh. That's a really sharp insight, almost like people are swapping a face lock for flight tickets.
Something like that, yeah. It signals a bit of a shift in consumer priorities, post-pandemic. Companies like TRP have to kind of rethink their value proposition.
Okay, so these quarterly dips are one thing, but how does this impact their overall financial health? Looking back at the full year 2024, what were the numbers looking like then?
Right, to give you that broader context, let's look at 2024. Their Q4 2024 profit was 33 million baht. Now that might sound okay, but it was actually a 27% decrease year on year, and down 14% from the previous quarter, Q3.
Okay, so a downward trend.
Definitely. And revenue for Q4 2024 also decreased 20% year on year to 133 million baht. That was despite a tiny 1% increase quarter on quarter. So yeah, the trend was clearly downwards through the year.
And what about their margins? Were they able to maintain profitability amidst these challenges?
Not quite. The gross profit margin also saw a slight dip. It went from 53.2% down to 52.4% in Q4 2024. The sources chalk this up to rising operational costs, specifically higher staff wages and increased expenses for medicine and medical supplies.
Right, the classic margin squeeze.
It's exactly declining revenue plus rising costs. It squeezes the margins. So overall, for 2024, TRP's profit landed at 139 million baht. That was down 28% year on year, and maybe more critically, it was 5% below what analysts were expecting. These figures really highlight the financial pressures they were facing, across multiple key indicators. It sets a challenging backdrop for what they did next.
Okay, so on one hand, we're seeing these financial pressures, profit declines, revenue dips, squeezed margins. But here's where it gets really interesting, like you said. Despite these headwinds, TRP is making some significant, almost audacious strategic moves. This raises that important question. How does a company navigate these short-term dips while chasing, long-term growth? Tell us about their future strategy. How are they planning to turn things around?
Yeah, this is truly a pivot point for TRP, it seems. Their strategy really centers on a major transformative upgrade. They successfully moved all their services from the existing Theraport clinic to the brand new Theraport hospital. That happened in Q2 2025. It was actually a slight delay. They planned for Q1, but the move itself is the big deal. This new hospital, it's located prominently on Toxin Road, and they're positioning it as, a game changer.
A brand new hospital sounds like a massive investment, though, especially during a period of financial pressure, right? What makes this new facility so crucial?
Well, the sources suggest it's already paying dividends, almost literally. The hospital has apparently been a huge hit just in its first 3 months. It's already covering its monthly depreciation costs, which are about 1 million baht.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this facility, it's designed to offer a much more private, more premium experience for clients. The ultimate goal is for it to become Thailand's first comprehensive facial cosmetic surgery hospital.
First comprehensive facial hospital. That's ambitious.
It is. And to support this big expansion and the elevated service level, they also added 5 new medical personnel in 2024. That brought their total up to 26. So it's not just about a bigger space, it's about elevating the whole brand and service offering.
That definitely sounds like a big leap, a bold one. From a clinic to a full hospital, aiming to lead a niche. What are the key growth factors they're banking on to make this work? Both the positives and, the potential negatives.
The positive factors are pretty compelling and kind of multifaceted. Firstly, there's the initial success of the new hospital itself. Seeing increasing customer numbers for popular procedures like their signature face lock.
Right, the facial rejuvenation one.
Exactly. And also multi-cell skin filling. That's a strong early sign. But they're not stopping there. They're strategically targeting entirely new market segments too.
New market segments?
No.
Like what? Are we talking beyond their sort of traditional demographic?
Exactly. One really fascinating move mentioned is targeting breast augmentation specifically for teenagers. That's a significant demographic expansion.
Interesting. And potentially controversial.
Potentially, yeah, that's something to watch. But they're also actively and, it seems, aggressively expanding their international customer base. This includes focusing heavily on the CLMV countries. That's Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam.
Oh.
They have a particular expectation for foreign customers to really return in force in Q4 2025. They think that'll lead to a much stronger second half of the year. Management seems confident these moves will help boost margins back up towards that 20% target.
So it's not just the new building, it's casting a much wider net for customers domestically and internationally. What about broader market trends? Are those helping them out?
Absolutely. Broader societal trends are definitely working in their favor here. We're seeing increased acceptance of cosmetic surgery pretty much across the board. It's less taboo. The aging population is also a huge factor. Many people are seeking aesthetic enhancements to, maintain a youthful appearance. And of course, you can't ignore the pervasive influence of social media. That whole drive to look good on camera, everyone wants to be ready for their close-up, right? TRP is clearly tapping into that pressure.
Makes sense. The Instagram face effect.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you have to remember those short-term profit concerns we talked about and the ongoing impact of the economic slowdown on just general consumer spending.
Yeah.
Those remain potential negative factors that, you as a listener should definitely keep an eye on. It's a real balancing act.
It certainly sounds like it. Juggling ambitious expansion with these economic realities. So with all these developments, the financial dips, the huge hospital launch, the new market targets, how are financial experts in the market generally viewing TRP stock? Let's talk price targets and maybe dividend stability.
Right. The analyst views really offer a mixed picture. It reflects that balance we were just discussing. Financia, for example, they updated their target price for TRP to 8.6080 for 2025. Now, that's actually a reduction from their previous target of 10.808.
Oh, okay. A reduction.
Yeah. And this valuation, it's based on a prospective PE ratio of 20 times. That's how much investors might pay for each unit of future earnings. And an estimated earnings per share, or EPS, of 0.43 baht for 2025. But despite cutting the target price, Financia kept a buy recommendation, so they still see long-term potential, it seems.
Interesting. A lower target, but still a buy. Does everyone agree with that? Is that the consensus?
Not at all. Krungsri Securities, for instance, holds a much more cautious view. They have a reduced recommendation. Their reasoning points to, quote, high downside risk and those specific short-term profit concerns in Q1 2025 that we touched on earlier. So it really highlights this divergence in opinion. Is the focus on TRP's immediate future or its longer-term story?
That's a clear split in sentiment then. What about dividends? For investors looking for income, how stable are TRP's dividend payments looking?
Well, regarding dividends, TRP did announce a payment of 0.20 baht per share for the year 2024. That represented an annual yield of about 2.7%. The ex-dividend date was back on May 7th, 2025, with the payment made on May 26th.
Okay, 2.7% yield.
Yeah. And their stated policy is important here. They aim to pay out at least 50% of net profit. That suggests a fairly strong commitment to shareholder returns, and it implies, a level of confidence from management in their ability to generate future profits to sustain that.
Right. Beyond analyst reports and dividends, are there any technical indicators? Or maybe more interestingly, significant company actions that have impacted the stock's trends, or give us a deeper insight into management's own perspective?
Absolutely. If we look at the company's own actions, a really significant indicator, sort of a technical view from management itself, comes from their aggressive share buyback program. TRP initially announced a plan back in March 2025 to repurchase up to 14 million shares. They set aside a budget of up to 120 million baht for this, running until September 2nd, 2025.
Okay, a standard buyback.
Well, they actually adjusted it later. They increased the number of shares they could buy to 21 million, within the same 120 million BAT budget.
Oh, so they thought the price was even more attractive then.
That's generally the signal, yes. Indicates more confidence or that they felt the shares were undervalued, and they followed through. The company successfully completed this program on September 2nd, 2025. They ended up buying back a total of 20,206,800 shares. That's quite a chunk, representing 5.77% of its total outstanding shares.
Wow, nearly 6%.
Yeah, and they spent almost the entire budget, 119.9 million BAT, basically. This aggressive buyback done directly by management is a very strong signal. It shows their confidence in the company's fundamental value and its future growth prospects. And it certainly would have acted as a support for the stock price during that challenging period we discussed. It's often seen as management putting their money where their mouth is.
That was a truly thorough deep dive into TRP. We went from its recent performance struggles through its strategic pivot towards that premium hospital model and looked at the contrasting market sentiments around it. It really highlights the dynamic, almost volatile nature of growth and investment in this whole aesthetic industry, doesn't it?
Indeed. The journey from just a clinic to a full-fledged hospital, combined with that targeted market expansion, it really shows their long-term vision, even while facing some very real short-term financial pressures. It leaves us with a lot to consider, I think, about how companies adapt and innovate when consumer landscapes shift so rapidly.
So, given all of this, what's a provocative thought to leave our listener with today? Something to chew on.
Okay, well, given those clear societal trends we talked about, the increased acceptance of cosmetic procedures, the aging population wanting aesthetic care, that relentless influence of social media, the core question for you, the listener, to ponder is this: how will TRP's big strategic shift to this premium comprehensive hospital model, plus targeting new demographics like teenagers and aggressively pushing into international markets, how will all that position them? Is it just for a recovery from these recent dips, or could it position them to truly redefine and capture a leading share of the aesthetic healthcare landscape in the years to come? Are they just riding a wave, or are they actually trying to set a new standard?
Great question to ponder. Thank you for joining us on Insight AI Brief Set Tie. Finally, if you have any other stocks you'd like us to cover, please do let us know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support our team. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.